Hi YouTubers, wanted to make this quick video on how to refresh the headlights on a 2009 Toyota Yaris. Unfortunately the bumper does have to come off if you want to use this method. There are other methods that you can do if you want to tape off the body and not remove the headlight. That's one option. The front bumper is not that difficult to take off. It's only held on by a few clips on the top. There's one over here, one over here, one over here, one over here, and then one on the end over here, one on each side right here. So those clips come off. In my case, the clips are rotted off, so I had them wire tied. And then there are some screws along the bottom that need to come off, and I'll point those screws out as I reassemble this. And then there's a few snaps. So if you look right here, there's some little snaps that are in here. If you look in kind of sort of close, let me see if I can get the angle so you can see the actual. There it is right there. So you have one. Kind of hard to make out, but there's a little snap right there. You can kind of sort of see it. So there's one snap. So if you push a little credit card in between the bumper and this little plastic part right here, and you can see it slightly when you look in the little crack, you'll see this little sliver of plastic. All you have to do is stick that little credit card or old expired hotel room key right in between and push down, and that will release the bumper from it. So there's one there, there's another one over here, you can kind of sort of see it there, and then the last one is over here in the corner. Once you get those out, it'll pull forward, and then once you have that off, then the whole thing just comes out real easy. I'll document putting it all back together, but these headlights need to be cleaned up. The car, I took it in for inspection today, and they gave it a fail because of these headlights. The replacement headlights are not that expensive, but I don't have the time really to wait on them. I just need to get this thing resolved quickly. I'm gonna try to see if I can remove some of this yellow hazing using the vapor blaster. I'm not sure if that'll work, but I'll go ahead and give that a shot anyway. Since the abrasive media is about 300 grit, it should remove a lot of that yellowing without me having to sand the heck out of it. I will have to sand with finer grits to be able to bring the luster back, and ideally you'd want to clear coat this with some type of a UV resistant paint, ideally one that has a hardener element to it, and there are some companies that sell it. I'll link those in the video description. All right, let me get these things off. They're held on with three bolts. One right here, I already took the other one off. One right here, one over in here, and then one down here in the corner. This one I already removed, so all you got to do once you remove the bolts is just kind of give it a little pull. Over here in the corner, you may have to lift this one out because it's kind of, there it goes. So once this thing snaps out, you can see the whole light just comes off. Just take that one connector off and you're good to go. All right guys, let me pause this video and I'll go ahead and load this thing in the vapor blaster. Alright guys, I'm going to stop the video, pull it out, hose it off, and then we'll see what we got. Alright, these are the results. The headlight on the right was in the vapor blaster. I hit it pretty good. While it did remove all of the bugs and garbage that splattered up against the lens, it does not remove the corrosion, because as you can see, the lens is still very yellow looking. So the glass bead media, what it's doing is just careening off and rolling off, and it's not really removing any of this oxidized plastic that's on here that's yellow. This is going to have to be hand sanded. What I'll do is I'll break out the off with 400 grit. And the idea here is to use the wet sanding paper on the lens until you no longer see yellow residue coming from it. All right, I'm going to dry it up, and then I'm going to compare it to the original lens again. All right, guys. So here we are. The right lens has been wet sanded, 400 grit. And as you can see, it looks much wider than the lens on the left. That even though the lens on the left looks a little clearer, you'll notice it's more yellowish. It has like a yellowish tint to it. And that's because the outer plastic that has been exposed to the sun for so many years has degraded the plastic and oxidized it to the point that it starts to yellow. The only way to get it back to looking the way it did when you bought the car is to remove that oxidation layer of plastic. You're essentially going to wet sand it until it's no longer yellow. You'll notice that what runs off of it as you're washing the part off goes from yellowish looking to almost like a very watered down milk look. When it gets to that color, then you know that you've sanded all that oxidation off the plastic. The way sandpaper works, most people don't understand the way sandpaper works. If you start off sanding with a 400 grit and then you want to polish as you go, the following grit should be double the grit you started. For example, in this case, we started with a 400 grit. The next one that I'm going to use is an 800 grit. What the 800 grit will do is remove the scratches that were made by the 400 grit, which is this foggy looking color that the lens has right now, how you can't see through it. After I finish with the 800 grit, I'm sorry, you'll notice that you'll be able to have more clarity. You'll see a little more detail. You'll be able to see through the plastic better. The grit that's going to follow the 800 is going to be the 1500. And then I'm going to finish up with the 2000. And then I'm going to hit it with a car polish. If you were going to paint this, you would simply get it to the 800 and then go ahead and paint. Use the paint. And that will be enough grit for the paint to adhere to. Clear coat paint is what I'm referring to. All right, guys, let me go ahead and set the camera back up, switch sandpapers, and we'll continue. 800 grit. And you may want to wear some kind of a glove on your sanding hand, because the sandpaper will sand your skin as you're going. You'll start to notice that your skin is starting to get kind of rough, and it's because you're sanding your fingerprints off. So I recommend wearing a glove on your sanding hand. So here we are at 800 grit, the lens on the right, 800 grit, and the lens on the left is still the way it was from the beginning. So if you're starting to notice, you can start to pick up a little bit more detail now on the lens on the right. The next paper that we're going to use is a 1500. Let me go ahead and set it all up. Guys, next up, 1500. All right, here we are. Now the lens on the right is 1500 grit. The lens on the left is still the original one. And if you notice, you're starting to pick up more detail on the one on the right as we get into the finer and finer sandpapers. The next one is going to be 2000 grit. All right, here we are. Lens on the right, 2000 grit. Original lens on the left. Now you can start to see a lot of the detail on the inside. The only thing left now to do is to polish it. I'm going to go ahead and get some car polish and a polish sponge, and we'll finish this up. Cleaner wax, and then you're just going to need one of these little guys to apply it. It's a good idea if this is a little bit moist, not really wet, but just damp, and it'll apply a lot easier. This can be done by hand, or if you're fortunate enough to have a car polisher, you can use a car polisher. It's not too bad by hand, but car polishers way faster. You'll start to see as you go along that you start picking up a good clear shine. And once you're confident that you've got most of it done, I mean, you don't see any heavy scratching or anything like that on the lens, then you know that you've polished it just enough. So it looks pretty good to me. I think I'm going to go ahead and take off the what's left of it. Now, what you want to use to take it off, you can pick up some of this cheesecloth. They sell it at the auto parts store, and this does a really good job of bringing up that last little bit of luster that you need and removing this car wax cleaner. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and put them again side by side so you can see the difference. All right, there you have it. So the process for the lens on the right was wet sand with 400 grit, wet dry sandpaper, then follow up with a 800 grit, followed by a 1500 grit, then a 2000 grit, and finishing up with a car wax polish and a cheesecloth to remove the wax. And that's it. And that's the result that you get. Now, bear in mind, it looks great now, but unless it's clear coated, it won't last. This it'll start to eventually yellow again because there's nothing protecting the plastic. If you want this to last a long time, what I'd recommend is once you finish up at the 800 grit level, then clean it with a degreaser, or you can use some alcohol. Make sure that there's no contaminants on the surface, and use a good high quality automotive clear coat that has a hardening agent and that is UV resistant. If you're using automotive grade paint, it's for the most part it's going to be UV resistant, and that's what I would recommend for this job to last. Otherwise, you'll be repeating this process every 6 or 7 months. All right, this is going to be tough to do, but I'm going to give it a shot. Front bumper goes on pretty easy. It's just present it on the bumper bracket. Trying to do this while holding the phone. Anyway, that's basically it. So I just one-handed that on there. And these are the snaps. These are the snaps I was talking about. So if you look carefully in there, you'll see some little clips. Well, those clips go onto these little snaps. There's one there, and there's one back here. Anyway, I'll go button it up and show you guys what it looks like once it's snapped on. Okay, bumper is on. It's all clipped in place. To the side with the little clips that I was talking about. And all you have to do is push them into place. Just got back from inspections and passed this time. Headlights look real good. Alright guys, have a wonderful 4th of July. Be sure to subscribe, like the video, and shoot me a comment. Let me know what you guys think I should do about this front bumper. Looks bad. I was thinking about a vehicle wrap or maybe a vinyl paint, maybe. Not sure. Let me know what you think.